Welcome to Simply Sarah. I am Sarah Stockham, your host, and I am so pleased that you are here, that you've taken time in your schedule to be here. And I'm noticing that there is a paper or something that's flopping that needs to be moved. I'm just also grateful for Glass Arts Collective for their incredible paid sponsorship, as well as Reiki Claremont and From Stressed to Best. And our conversation today is going to be such a unique one. Jennifer Tomaszek has worked as an RN in so many different places around the country and has just such a compelling story about the place that she found that was so transformational for her. Jennifer, welcome. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to tell my story and how I found Christ, or how Christ really started to make a difference in my heart.
Absolutely. So you became an RN, and I know you now that you're keeping your license active. But
Yes.
What was your path to become a nurse?
Well, I did not start to my education out of high school the traditional way. I had a lot of odds and end jobs. I went to started retail, went to Marshall Fields, had to work my way up in the management. Marshall Field and Company out of Chicago. It was a major chain there for people that lived in Chicago back in the 80s. It was the heyday. Yes. Then when that closed down, Dayton Hudson's, who now owns Target, they bought that. And then I worked for Jenny Craig when they had retail stores before they went online only, was retail there. And then became a single mom and realized that that really wasn't going to support my son. So realized that I needed more of a job, a career than a job. And that's when I realized that I needed to go back to school. And nursing seemed to be a great fit for me because I love to care for people.
Yes.
And so back in 2001 is when I was at 30 years old, a true freshman, with a bunch of 18-year-olds, which was a fun and unique experience. And it was also challenging because at that year was when 9/11 happened. So yes. So fast forward, dealing with those insecurities with my son, making sure he was okay, and in a world that was changing. Yes. Graduated in 2005 and went to a telemetry field or floor, I should say, which is also known as a cardiac floor. And only in right on the outskirts of Chicago at Rush Oak Park. And yes. And so learned a lot, but only lasted there a few months because I was far away from my son. By the time I left in the morning, I was away from him before he woke up. And by the time I got home, I was only spending about an hour with him before he went to bed. And so I was really realizing that I was missing a great deal of his life. And so it ended up being a patient who was a nursing school instructor that advised me that I needed to go and spend time with him and take a different job. And because I could always come back to nursing, in the hospital.
Sure.
But I could never get that time back with my son. So I left Chicago in the hospital scene for a job back in the suburbs in dermatology, and joined a private practice dermatology, which ended up being one of the busiest practices in all of in the Midwest. And I spent 6 years there, and that was an unreal experience in a very positive way. A typical day could be assisting a physician with a Mohs skin cancer surgery, then leaving that and then assisting in a liposuction procedure, then assisting with a Botox, Restylane procedure, then jumping into a room with a skin biopsy. And so it was amazing how much you would learn about the skin. And I had 6 years of that.
Wow.
And so 6 years of invaluable experience. But you also dealt with the highest level of a clientele, meaning very wealthy.
Yes.
And at that time, in between that time, I had found my current husband, Wesley. And it was Wes that found a job in Charleston, South Carolina. And it was there that we moved down there. And it was there that started to transform my life. And I found my true love in public health nursing. And it's there that God introduced himself. I say to people, that's where God introduced himself to me.
Wow.
And my life started to transition there. And so I can continue on. I took a position as what's called a public health nurse, a preventative health nurse, I should say. And what we do there is we worked with the underserved clientele there. And part of that was part of the clientele that we served was working with some prostitutes. And at first I was, not taken back, but I was just, I had never come in contact with that clientele.
Right.
And so it was just the first couple encounters. I just didn't know how to, I didn't know how to act. Just to be honest, I just didn't know how to act.
Yeah.
And, as a preventative health nurse, what we do is not only do we test them for the proper terminology nowadays is STIs, sexually transmitted infections. So we make sure that they're clean, and we make sure that they're not pregnant. And then we also get them on a proper birth control. We also counsel them. And it was through that counseling that I started to develop relationships with these women.
Yes.
And it slowly, I started to learn God's grace. And I just started to develop unbelievable relationships with these women. And it was no longer a title. It was no longer that they were prostitutes. It was, these were women. And these were women, and I'm getting the goosebumps. I always get goosebumps when I tell this story, because these were women who I was humbled and honored to take care of. And then it dawned on me that all the years previously that I said that I was a Christian and that I had accepted Jesus Christ in my life, I almost thought that it was robotic saying. And yes, I did believe in Jesus. And yes, I believed that he was in my life. But Jesus was actually in my life, because I truly believe that he had finally given me grace and I understood what serving meant, because these women were showing me what it was like to serve. And they showed me the true meaning of what grace was and what love was. And I loved seeing them. I loved serving that population, and it was just an honor. And it just came to the point where, I would just come in and I would just give them just a small compliment, just like, wow, you got a great smile. And they would say, no one has ever told me that, not even my mama. And these women were, some of them were in their late 20s, early 30s. And then you realize how sad that was. And, then you realize just the smallest gesture of love, the smallest gesture of grace shown to someone else, and how that can just make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized at that point what Jesus in that the story about him and the prostitute in the Bible, and what he must have felt like, just the love he must have shown to that woman, and how appreciative she was, and how great it must have felt for him, because my life completely changed. And it was just other people too, in the underserved population. It's just the difference that you can make, coming from the population that I served up in Chicago,
right,
coming down to that population. They enriched my life so much more. Not to say that the people up in Chicago were bad or anything, because they were wonderful people.
Right. Yes.
But it was such an honor to serve. And, after I went through the training, I was promoted to a site supervisor in a different county that was real close. It was in an adjacent community. And a lot of these women, found out that I was no longer at this site, and they would come to the site. When they found out, they would make the effort to come see me. And they couldn't pronounce my last name, so they just called me JT. And Justin Timberlake was really popular when I was down there at that time. So they called me the female JT. And it was, it would just, at that time, really, it was the best job I had. And also the women that I worked with down there, they were the top notch, because they were all Christian women, and you could tell that God lived in their hearts. And it was an unbelievable experience. And that's when God really made an impact in my heart. And from that day, I feel like a small ministry of mine. And when I wake up every day, I always end my prayers, and I say, God, fill me with your love and grace, that I may make one person smile, may make one person feel special, may make one person feel loved, and most importantly, may make one person know what it feels like to be loved by you. And then I will fill out your ministry that you have for me. And I try to do that to as many people as I can.
Yes.
Because I see it makes me feel like, it just makes me feel so good that I can do that for someone. And, that my job at church at Central United Methodist is greeting people every Sunday.
Yes.
And I just try to do that to everyone, because seeing them smile and I just feel like it brings me such joy to see them. And I try to do that to everyone I meet. I mean, there's a complete stranger that I see at McDonald's, I'm going up to them and saying something. And if they're wearing a beautiful dress, I just go up to them and say, you look absolutely beautiful in that dress.
Yes.
And that might be the only compliment she hears. It might be the only thing that she's heard positive in her life for a couple weeks.
True.
You never know. And so that's why I try to go out of my way to say something nice to someone, even if I don't know them, because you never know. So,
Jennifer, this is so good. I am just walking right along with you as you're sharing your story of finding yourself as a single mom and needing to move from a job into a career and deciding that nursing is the right thing for you to do. What a beautiful, clear understanding of the heart that you had and have to be able to go into that. And also that you are so incredibly smart. It takes a clear mind to be able to go through nursing school and to come out on the other side, and then to be able to work in a cardiac unit or working with a top skincare place, dermatology place, and then being able to work with the underserved. The skill set is there, but the ability to be able to take and shape what you know and be able to communicate it in such a way that the person who is listening to you is actually taking the information in, and that it will make a difference. Did you have somebody who was already in medicine in your family that was kind of the person that it just made sense for you to go into nursing?
Actually, no, there was no one. I had a cousin that was an ER doctor, but we weren't really close. So there was really no one. It was just something that I thought of and was like, you know what? That makes sense for me, you know? And it was really funny because no one in my family thought I would last. So it was kind of like, hey, not only did I prove you wrong, but I graduated the top of my class. So, yeah, no, I was like,
yes. And a single mom. So you've had to have been working also while you were going to school. How were you able to maneuver all those different pieces and get your son to school at time and, go to his events and that kind of thing? How did you work through all that? That's just so much to have on a calendar, to be studying, to be learning, to be taken care of, to be providing. How did you manage that?
Well, at that time, I moved home moved in with my parents. And so that was a huge godsend at that time. And so my parents, that saying, it takes a village. Well, it took my parents' village to help. So my parents really helped me raise my son at that time.
Yes.
And so I wasn't working during that time of going to school. I was able just to concentrate on my studies, and then because I was living at home with my parents. So that was huge.
And I love when that intergenerational piece begins to happen, where it's not just we're going to grandparents' house, but that there is that communication of I see you as a person, both directions, right? That's just such a powerful piece, I think. And I'm just so grateful that I got to know my grandparents so well, all four of them, because I just think that gives a whole different flavor to life and flavor to being able to talk to people of different ages as well. And then I think also, as I'm no longer 20, some grace in that space of aging, as well as watching them and having different examples of what that looks like to be aging. So
it was kind of, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it was kind of cool to sit at the kitchen table with my son and do homework with him.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Such a good experience.
Yes.
As you were finishing up school and beginning to look for jobs, were you, what were you most focused on in that space? Knowing that you had graduated top of the class, that there would be obviously options for you, and you go into working in the cardiac unit. What was it that you were seeking at that point?
Well, at that point, I was just seeking a day job. And just so at that point where I thought if I could find just a normal day job instead of the 12s, I found a day job that worked, 7 to 3. And I thought, why, my gosh, that's like finding a unicorn. Yes. And instead of the traditional 3 12s, I thought, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. And so I took it and thought that would be ideal for my son. But it ended up, because it was in Chicago, I spent, an hour, even though it was in the morning, an hour in traffic. and then almost 2 hours, hour and a half in the afternoon in traffic. And so it wasn't worth it. And my problem was, I thought that if I left the field in the hospital, I would lose my training that they say is so desperate for a new grad to keep. And that's what the nursing instructor, who was my patient, said, you can always come back and regain that, but you'll never get that time back with your son. And you've got to leave here and go, because you'll regret it if you don't go. And she was right.
Yes.
And so when I left and took that job in the suburb that I lived in in the western suburbs, I should say, I was able to go to every one of his basketball games, every one of his concerts, and I look back and it was amazing. Mm-hmm. It was truly amazing. So, and I have to give credit to my husband, because I had to move down that's my son, Josh, mm-hmm. his senior year. Mm-hmm. And I had to leave Christmas, right after Christmas of his senior year. And my husband made it available that I flew back from Charleston every weekend, so I would not miss one of his every basketball game. Incredible. I didn't miss his senior party. I didn't miss his senior prom or his graduation. So I flew back every weekend to Chicago from Charleston, and which was a credit to my husband.
Yeah.
So
that's just so fabulous that he wanted you with him, but also understood that there is still some unfinished business in parenting and wanting to be there to be able to see all that. That's really fabulous. In the space then of being in Charleston and being in the space of choosing public health, was that just something that was kind of laid on your heart, or that there were just lots of openings there? What helped you to make that decision as you were relocating?
Well, that's a kind of a funny story, because they said when I moved down there that I was going to have a very hard time finding a job in Charleston, because they didn't like, quote unquote, Yankees coming down. And that they would be partial to keeping jobs for people in the South. Mm-hmm. And so and they were right. I applied. I'm like, that's not true. But, when they see my, resume, I thought that I had a pretty good resume, yes. Especially with my grade point and, my, everything else. I thought, no way. But I did. I applied and I applied and I applied, and I just wasn't hearing anything. And finally, I'm just like, I just applied to, it was called DHEC, Department of, Health and Environmental Control, and applied for this job. And I did not seek it out. It was just, here, I'm submitting another resume. And God is like, we need her. I need to work on her, so she's going to get this job. I think God's like, I need some time with her.
Yeah.
And so he gave me this. And, there is a lot of training that goes involved, because I think South Carolina at the time was the only state that has this position, this preventative health nurse, because they have this 2-week training, intense training in their state capital of Columbia, because they have this umbrella that these preventative health nurses practice under, the nurse practitioners and the doctors. And as a preventative health nurse, we do pap smears, which
wow,
yes, and we do the testing and draw the blood for the STIs, the sexually transmitted infections. We also test for HIV. And so when I heard that we do pap smears, I'm like, oh my gosh, we all thought only doctors do those. But
Right.
we do those under, we did that
Umbrella.
training under the umbrella of the nurse practitioner and the doctor. But that training that we did for that was very intense. We had to go up to, like I said, to Columbia, the state capital in South Carolina, for this training.
Mhm.
And so it was a very unique program. And like I said, again, that just brought you in the closeness of this underserved population, and working with these women, you really got to get this close bond with them.
Yes.
And just, counseling them, and just the closeness and the trust that you can build with these women, and just the women in general, was amazing.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Do you like and admire the version of you that shows up under stress? From the point that we feel stressful circumstances show up in our life, there is about a 10-second window that we have to be able to not just manage, but prevent stress. And it's called the 10-second solution. If you are interested in more information about how you can prevent stress, I invite you to go to my Instagram. The handle is @SarahStockham, and go to the bio and sign up right now. Your future you deserves this information. You can actually have a great relationship with stress. Sign up now at Sarah Stockham. Glass Arts Collective is doing something so fun and amazing. Believing that all of us are creative, they are opening up their Instagram page for people who are creating things to be able to post those things there. I also believe that you are creative, and I'm super excited about this opportunity to be supporting Glass Arts Collective. They are amazing. Do you wonder if you can actually make a difference in a war-torn country half a world away? One man has decided a difference can be made. The Mama Lynn Center in Central Congo gives women who have been ravaged by war a chance at a new life. Women and their families, including husbands, come to learn how to move forward. The women are taught sewing skills to be able to create an income. At the end of their year-long training, each graduate receives a sewing machine. This is where your support dramatically impacts lives. $150 US provides a new hand-operated sewing machine. Here's the link and QR code to join Sarah and Michael Stockham in positively changing futures through the Mama Lynn Sewing Machine Project. We are grateful for the opportunity to share how you can make a significant difference. I am so pleased to have Jennifer in studio today to have this conversation about how she has allowed the next door to open, and then the next door to open, and then sometimes maybe wondering if it was the right door that was closing, what was going to be opening up next. This is such a timely conversation. That space also of relocating and being able to find a new community is one that I've been having with multiple people in different places, whether they are starting new jobs and finding a new community there, or they are literally relocating where they live. Maybe it's only 11 miles away, and yet still finding that to be very, very different grocery store, different places to go walking, different places to shop. And so these spaces of being open to what's next. Yes, guard your heart. Yes, be aware. But yes, say yes and allow things to touch your heart. So Jennifer, in the space of you then being in South Carolina, being given extra training, being given the opportunity to be impacting women's lives, when did you begin to notice, about how long did it take for you to begin to notice that you were the one whose life was being changed as a result of serving this underserved community?
Oh, instantly. I mean, my heart just felt warm. I mean, I couldn't wait to go to work. my heart just felt different. It just felt warm. It just instantly. I mean, I think when your heart is touched by God in a different way, you just know. And my heart just lifted, and I just knew that God had just touched me, and it was amazing. It was just absolutely amazing, and I will never forget. I will never forget these women and how they changed my life. And yeah, I mean, like I said, it was not just the women that I helped treat. It was the women that I worked with. They were a class act. They were a class act. They taught me a lot as well. And so it was just a phenomenal experience all around. And so, and then, so we ended up having, unfortunately and fortunately, having to leave there. My husband took a job here in Knoxville in 2014. So we only spent a couple years there. And so we came here, and so we've loved Knoxville. And so we came here, and I ended up taking a job here in public health in Knoxville. But for a very unfortunate reason, we had an event where my in-laws at that time were living in Chicago. And I had just started a position here in Knoxville with their public health department. Yes. And my in-laws in Chicago had a break-in their home. And my father-in-law had dementia. And my mother-in-law called and very upset, and we had to leave and take care of them. Well, the policy here in Knoxville was if you cannot give 2-week notice, regardless of the situation, you can never come back and reapply, even though ours seemed like a very valid, reason why I could not give 2 weeks. I mean, I had to go up and take care of them, and I didn't have any vacation accrued because I had just started. I think I was there for like 4 days when this event occurred. And I said, I family first, I have to leave. And so that ended my public health in Knoxville. And so since that time in my 3-day stint in public health in Knoxville, I have not, for health reasons, I have not really done any more nursing. But I love nursing so much, and just in case some event arises that would give me the opportunity that kind of matches what I experienced in South Carolina, I have kept my nursing license active. And so I continue to work on my CMEs, my continuing medical hours. And so, because I don't want that to lapse. I worked too hard for that degree.
Yes. Yes.
I'm proud of that degree. So I keep it. So
yes. I have to share with you that I am the same with my teaching credential. I don't know that I'll ever use it, but it's been such a part of who I am, and it's opened so many doors. And it just feels like it's one thing that I can do to continue to be attached to that title that I so loved being in the classroom. And so I can fully appreciate you keeping your licensing going with nursing.
Yeah.
As you look at where you are right now, the whole space of relocating and having a whole different series of events happen to close the door for you to be at this point working in Knoxville, how has that landed in your heart? You were in such a place where you had community with other nurses. You guys had a vision and a plan and a ministry together. You had, hours that you worked, that you were side by side, at least seeing each other in the hallway. You had moved into a position of authority. you had these beautiful relationships with this underserved population. And when you were promoted, they came and followed you because they just wanted to continue the relationship with you as well. Part of that being what you saw in them and what the life that you were breathing and sharing with them, the ways that you were helping them see the world through different eyes. Coming into Knoxville and having this be a real different experience, what have been some of the tools that you have used to kind of, I may use the word regulate from being in such a powerful place of knowing that you're making a difference and being involved in people's lives and having that community and friendships, and coming to a new place where it, I think, for most people takes a little bit of time to develop some of those things, particularly if you're not connected in with an organization of some kind.
Well, I don't think I handled it too well at first because I really was longing for that. And I was filled with a lot of regret at first because I missed that job so much. And I really didn't get involved with anything right when we first moved. But, right now I'm taking that and I'm trying to get very involved in our church right now at Central United Methodist in Lenoir City, and trying to get involved with many groups as I can, and really trying to use the ministry as it maybe as small as it is. My little motto is, trying to touch people's lives, as many people as I can, and it, maybe just make one person smile, two people smile, make someone feel loved.
Yes.
That's, Jesus, that's Jesus' ministry. Yeah. Spreading his love, his word, and just doing that. And, you never know what Jesus wants you to do, or God's path. And I'm trying to get involved in our church, and maybe that will lead me down to something else. Another thing that I pray every day is, show me how I can serve you more, Lord. I'm always looking. I love you so much. So show me what else I can do for you. Show me what is my calling.
Yes.
And so I'm willing. I'm waiting for my orders, I say. So, but I never underestimate what a kind word could do for someone, because I've seen it firsthand for people, for women that never probably got a kind word in, years. Yeah. And so I know what that can do. So that's what I'm trying to do right now, is just try to get involved in places at church and then see what that leads.
I really appreciate when you drive up to pick up my mom, who's almost 90 years old. And you talked about you guys being like Thelma and Louise, heading out to go visit people who are shut in, people who don't necessarily have family in the area, people who may or may not have taken a shower in the last several days, right? Just people who are aging and who are being cared for, and hopefully their hearts are being cared for as well. And two of you go in and absolutely change lives. And for the one person who has dementia, asking her to sing, and the words come back, maybe not in the right order, but the tune is there, the voice is there, that space of being loved on and remembered and still part of the community. I think this is such an important piece of loving on the people who no longer can get out and come and do all the things that they used to do. And then another thought, Jennifer, is this space of, fall into winter, that space of not as much light outside, that space of reflection, of being quieter. Having lived at the equator for most of my life, for a lot of my life, and then living in places that had lots of sunshine for most of my life, coming to a place that has 4 seasons. Now, I lived in Indianapolis for a while. I lived in Michigan for a while. We had 4 seasons. But being here, I'm having a different conversation with myself about what these seasons are about and what they mean. And just as we take all of our plants off of our screen porch and give them a hiatus in the garage during the wintertime, Michael graciously put up a whole bunch of hangers for me so that everybody still has a hanger, and we have a whole area that we put the potted things so that they're off the floor. And every night we close the garage door because last year we got down to -3, but everything came through. Well, one thing didn't quite come through, but all the rest of the plants all came through. But they needed, Mom was just talking about that, they need this rest. Don't give them any more fertilizer. Don't ask them to grow. Don't put lights on them. Just allow them that space of rest. And I think that when we are healthy and we have some chunks of time, that the concept of resting or being quiet can, in this very fast-paced country that we live in, for me, can just feel a little bit unnerving. And so I think that for me, listening to you and the conversations that we've had about this whole idea of relocating and finding new roots and putting those roots down and finding community, one of the pieces that I'm processing right now is it okay? The answer is yes. But is it okay inside of my full being to be able to take these spaces that are a little bit quieter, not knowing what's ahead, not knowing what this is going to, what the energy that's being stored up right now or renewed, but that's going to open up for future things. Don't know if you have any thoughts on that or not, but that's just something that I've been processing recently.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that. Sometimes it's hard for me just to sit back and just take it in and relax and be okay with that. My husband says you just need to relax and just, I feel like I always have to be go, 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 go. And I need just to, it's okay just to sit back and not do anything for a while.
Yeah.
And so
maybe our being, maybe us seeing other people, maybe us inviting people into conversations, maybe that's exactly what we're supposed to be doing. I'm just kind of processing that a little bit. In this space, are there things that you would like to reiterate that you want people to really hold in their heart as they walk away from this conversation?
No, just that it doesn't take much just to be kind to someone else, to make someone smile, to just a kind word. If you see someone that has a great smile, take that risk and say, wow, you got a great smile. Or if you see someone that looks really good in red, say, wow, that color looks great on you. Because you know what? You're going to make their day. And you that compliment might be the first time that they've heard something nice said in a week.
Yes.
So
easily.
And you're spreading love. You're spreading God's love.
Yeah.
Just something simple like that.
Yes.
So
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for carving out time in your schedule to come and for us to have this conversation. The highest compliments that I ever hear from our audience is it felt like I was listening to two friends who were just talking over a cup of coffee. And this has felt like that for me, that space of just sharing our lives and talking about how amazing doors have opened for us, and that we have said yes when they have opened, not knowing what always going to be asked of us. And yet beautiful, beautiful things have happened.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a joy. It really has.
Beautiful. One of the things that I was talking about with a group of people recently from a class from Stress to Best was this concept or idea of we know ourselves, and so the gifts that we have are ones that we perhaps take for granted, and to come to a place of being able to ask up to 5 or more trusted people. You trust who they are, you trust that you can ask this question, but to ask them, what are the 3 qualities that you see in me? Because if you are in a place of not being sure what the next thing is to work on, maybe having that information may help open your eyes to potentially what else you could be doing or working on. We are so grateful for you being here with us, for you investing time in yourself, for these conversations to help you open your eyes to other things. We'll see you next time.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I am the founder and owner of Lamano Art. I began this business over 20 years ago. I specialize in paintings of all kinds. I make murals, portraits, and live paintings. My specialty is color and also telling a story. Some of the work that Lamano Art does are calligraphy pieces, wedding invitations, sign work, and sculptures like fairy doors. I'm open to working with anyone on any idea. Please feel free to contact me at